Bonjour, salut, hello, welcome everyone. This is Roderick Campbell, and today I will be presenting on mental health. Mental health is something that I identified as a prominent problem and something that we don't take the time to educate ourselves on enough, talk about enough, and go seek the help that we may need, and that could be life changing. And I think that through this presentation, we will see why, through different statistics and definitions and personal examples, I will walk you through what mental health is and why it's important, and why it's an issue. So we can begin to combat the stigmas that we have against mental health and try to make the world a better place and knowing what it is and how we can help people who do suffer from mental health issues. Moving on to what I'll be talking about today. The first thing I will be talking about is why mental health is such an issue that we have in 2021, and I will provide an abundance of statistics to support my claims as to why I think it's important to talk about. After that, I'll transition into the different stigmas that we have about mental health and what those are. After that, I will transition into what actually is mental health. And I think there's a lot of preconceptions and misconceptions about what mental health actually is and what it isn't. And I'll also be providing a personal testimony with my experience as it regards to mental health. Later, I'll be talking about how we can combat the stigmas that we have for uh, mental health and improving our awareness, overall awareness for it, and some steps that we can do to help others who may be in need and we don't know. And finally, I will be talking about what we are doing in society right now to help mental health. How are we bringing more awareness to it? What are some of the programs that we're doing in different institutions, such as universities, to bring awareness to this and help people that need it and bring them the resources and be more comfortable to talk about it and normalize this? And then I'll finish with my conclusions and final thoughts, and I'll also have a reference page at the end of this presentation so you can go and check out what I gathered from my research. Why is mental health important? Why is having awareness of what mental health is important? Why do we care about the things that are going on inside our head? It almost seems rhetorical in a sense, but I think mental health is important because it affects more people than we think. And especially when we have these stigmas, we don't really know what it is. So I think it's important to educate ourselves to know what it is first, and then go and try to destigmatize our thoughts of what we think it is. Another reason why I feel that mental health is important is because how it affects our youth. And the study that I will be using today states that among the youth, there is a growing evidence that mental health is in decline. Some of the findings included 9.7% of youth in the United States have severe major depression, compared to 9.2% in the 2020 last year data set. So, mental health as it regards to major depression in youth went up 0.5% from 2020 to 2021. This rate was highest among youth who identify as more than one race, which is at 12.4%. The study from the Mental Health National Organization also mentioned that even before COVID-19, the prevalence of mental illness among adults was increasing. In 2017 and 2018, 19% of adults experienced a mental illness, which is an increase of 1.5 million people over 2020's data set. Also, the percentage of adults in the United States who are experiencing serious thoughts of suicide increased 0.15% from 2016 and 2017 to 2017 to 2018, which is an additional 460,000 people from the 2020's data set. There is still unmet need for mental health treatment among youth and adults. 60% of youth with major depression did not receive any mental health treatment in 2017 and 2018. Even in states with the greatest access, over 38% are not receiving the mental health services they need. And among youth with severe depression, only 27.3% receive consistent treatment. 23.6% of adults with a mental illness reported an unmet need for treatment in 2017 and 2018, and this number has not declined since 2011. The study also stated that the number of people screening with study also stated that the number of people looking for help with anxiety and depression has skyrocketed. From January to September of 2020, 315,000 people took the anxiety screen, a 93% increase over the 2019 total number of anxiety screens. Over 530,000 people took the depression screen, which is a 62% increase over the 2019 total number of depression screens. There are a multitude of different statistics on this page, but I will leave with this. Young people are struggling most with their mental health, which is why I feel that mental health is important, because it affects our younger population. The proportion of youth ages 11 through 17 who assessed screening was 9% higher than the average in 2019. Not only are the number of youth searching for help with their mental health increasing, but throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, youth ages 11 through 17 have been more likely than any other age group to score for moderate to severe symptoms of anxiety and depression. All of the information and statistics that I just spoke on all come from the Mental Health National Organization, and this website has great resources and statistics on current events. 2021, they have 2020 breakdown of statistics as far as mental health, and I think this is a great resource for people to start to learn more about how damaging mental health really is and the numbers that are backed behind that. This is a visual of the statistics that I found from the Mental Health Organization, and I wanted to have this on here because I know I spoke of a lot of statistics, but I think this will kind of help put some of that into perspective for you guys. So, what is mental health? I'll start by talking about what isn't mental health. And for me, what I initially thought mental health was, this was years ago, but I thought mental health, or people who suffered a mental illness, were, I thought of a like a crazy, psychotic person in an institute or something like that. It was very minimum knowledge, and I recently learned that even terms like crazy and psychotic are all, insults that you shouldn't use to describe someone dealing with mental health issues and mental illnesses. And much like anything else, they're just inappropriate. So we can start talking about what is mental health. And I think the mental health organization .gov website that I found this information on is very, very, very intriguing because it has a list of all the things that people can stigmatize about what mental health is, but it's here, clear cut and concise, and we have it right here at our fingertips. So we really have no excuse to not know what mental health is if we use our resources and want to learn about it. So, according to the study, it says that mental health includes our emotional, psychological, and social well being. It affects how we think, feel, and act. It also helps determine how we handle stress, relate to others, and make choices. Mental health is important at every stage of life, from childhood and adolescence through adulthood. And I'm not going to read the whole slide, but if you want, you can pause the video so that you can read the rest of this, and we will continue on the next slide. So, for a quick personal story and my attachment to what mental health is that I am a student athlete and I've been playing football since I was 7 years old. So, this is a big part of my identity. When I got to college, my freshman year in 2016 at Northwestern, I had a surgery on my shoulder after the end of the first season, and I was not able to participate in practice or workouts or anything like that. And I just felt so empty because this is what I've been doing my whole life. So I start to get depressed because I didn't know who I was outside of football. And growing up, I kind of had this thought that, oh, I have to be strong, I have to be tough. Mental health is something that is for weak people, and it's a very, masculine, point of view. But I decided to reverse that trend after I saw myself going to the lakefront at midnight at the rocks, just praying that things will change and I find out who I am and that I won't struggle in school anymore. And when I first reached out to get counseling, it was probably one of the best decisions I ever made because I recognized who I was outside of football and I was able to tackle some problems that I was having as far as the mental health issue front, and getting the help that I needed was made all the difference for me. So I recognized that I had a misconception of mental health and it dissuaded me from wanting to get help. But once I realized what it was and how it's affecting my life, and not even just for me, but for the people around me and the ones that I love the most, I took action and decided to educate myself. Some of the common stigmas that I retrieved from centennialmhc.org is that people with mental illnesses are dangerous and unpredictable. This is the most prevalent stereotype about people with mental health conditions, and it is reinforced on a daily basis by popular media, including the news media. Several studies have found that news coverage of people with mental illness in the United States are far more likely to be about violence than news coverage in other countries. Another stereotype is that people with mental illness are incompetent. This stereotype is also pervasive. Popular media furthers this stereotype as well by portraying people with mental illness as wildly irrational or childlike. Another one is incompetent, and people thinking that you develop a mental health disorder by being around someone who has it. It's not true. And another one is that people feel like a person with a mental illness deserve blame for their conditions. While this stereotype has lessened somewhat in recent years, it's still very common. It can also be expressed as people with mental illness are weak or have character flaws that lead to these conditions. And the last one is that people with mental illness have little hope for recovery. And this stereotype would have you believe that a person with mental illness is irretrievably damaged. Some of the main activities that I believe that we can do as a society to improve our awareness of what mental health is and how we can help others who may be struggling and don't know how to reach out for help and use resources is to call it out when we see it. If we see someone who is negatively talking about someone with a mental health illness or mental health disorder, as in, oh, you're crazy, you don't know what you're talking about, you're the blame for why you are the way you are. I think we need to do a better job as to, hey, that's not what we want to do. That's not right. And you should definitely educate yourself on what mental health is before you go out and start speaking about something that could be very near and dear to someone who has gone through a situation, and for you to try to belittle it or not acknowledge it as a real problem or think that they're crazy or even saying words like crazy and psychotic is something that I think will definitely help our awareness to be improved as it regards to mental health. One of the most prominent things that we can ask ourselves are, what are we doing now to fix the problem? We can do hours on end explaining what the problem is and why it's a problem, but ultimately we'll be judged on what can we do to alleviate these problems. And the things that we are doing now to solve mental health issues, not mental health in itself, but stigmas to mental health and people viewing it differently, are some of the things that I have listed here. The American Academy of Pediatrics is a great resource to view, look at as to mental health as it regards to youth. I think they did a phenomenal job of having a platform where you can go to and click on different videos for scenarios and how to deal with different mental health issues such as depression and anxiety, especially within youth, because that's where it starts. And we have the tools now to go on this website to educate ourselves and become more aware about what mental health is. Another resource that I have been made aware of is Mental Health Awareness Month. I was always under the impression that there was a Mental Health Awareness Day, but according to the American Hospital Association, there is an actual month, which is May. I didn't know, so now you guys know as well. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and it's a time to raise awareness of those living with mental or behavioral health issues and to help reduce the stigma so many experience. Here at SIU, the athletics programs has a program which is a specific committee that deals with the topic of mental health and overcoming stigmas. We meet every month, and it is also student led. And a student led organization, in my opinion, says more about the importance of mental health because it is not a forced seminar that everyone has to go to at the beginning of the year for an orientation. I think the authenticity allows for people to open up more about their mental health issues in a way that is positive and productive. The commitment of a university and universities across the country are a sign that mental health is indeed a current issue that we need to continue to invest our resources in. So, to wrap up today's presentation on mental health, I think it's important to recognize what mental health is and what it isn't, and then we can have the conversation of how do we dismantle these stigmas that we have in society. We know that media and news coverage is a big part of how people view certain mental health illnesses, but with education and a willingness to dismantle these stigmas, we can view mental health in a better light. Also, I think normalizing having mental health issues and going to see a therapist or a counselor or even talking to your friend about it is something that is going to be more and more important as we get along in this country, because there's a lot going on, especially in times of COVID. There's a lot of uncertainty, and as we saw from the statistics, mental health, issues are on the rise every year, and it's climbing at alarming rates. So I want to do my part in educating myself on what it is and how I can help, especially through the community and starting even at youth centers to always help raise awareness for mental health.